Rachel Hayes wasn't supposed to be out here. Her shift at the medical center had ended 3 hours ago, and she'd promised herself she'd finally use that hiking pass she'd bought 6 months back. The forest trails on Verdancia were supposed to be beautiful this time of year, with the purple leaf trees turning orange in the autumn light. She'd been walking for about 45 minutes when she heard it, a sound like thunder, except the sky was perfectly clear. Then came the crash, so loud it made her ears ring. Birds scattered from the trees in every direction, their alien calls filling the air with panic. Rachel's heart hammered in her chest. Her first thought was a shuttle crash. Maybe someone from the colony lost control during landing. She pulled out her communicator, ready to call emergency services, but something made her pause. What if they needed immediate help? What if every second counted? She ran toward the sound, her medical bag bouncing against her hip. The emergency kit was just standard hiking supplies, bandages, painkillers, a basic scanner, but it was better than nothing. Her lungs burned as she pushed through the underbrush, following the trail of broken branches and scorched vegetation. Then she saw the crater. It was massive, easily 50 feet across. Smoke rose from the center in thick gray columns, and the earth around it had been turned to glass from the heat. Rachel slowed down, suddenly aware of how quiet everything had become. No birds, no insects, just the crackling of small fires and the hiss of cooling metal. She approached the edge carefully, peering down into the smoking pit. At first, she thought it was a ship, some kind of escape pod maybe, or a fighter craft. But as the smoke cleared, she realized she was looking at something else entirely. It was a creature, an enormous, dragon-like being with scales that shimmered bronze and gold even through the soot and ash. One massive wing was spread out awkwardly, bent at an angle that made Rachel wince. The other was tucked against his body. The creature's chest rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths. Every instinct told her to run. This was a predator, something that could probably swallow her whole without thinking twice. But Rachel was a nurse, and she'd taken an oath. It didn't matter if the patient had 2 legs or 4, scales or skin. Someone was hurt, and she was here. She climbed down into the crater, her boots slipping on the loose dirt. The heat radiating from the creature's body was intense, like standing next to a furnace. Up close, she could see the intricate patterns on its scales, geometric designs that seemed to shift and flow in the light. She'd seen draconians before, of course. They came through the colonies, sometimes on trading missions. But this one was different, bigger, more regal somehow. Rachel pulled out her medical scanner with shaking hands. The readings made her stomach drop. Fractured wing bones, internal bleeding, shock. If she didn't do something now, this creature would die within the hour. Okay, she muttered to herself. Try and stay calm, just like any other patient. Assess, stabilize, treat. She started with the obvious problem. The wing. The fracture was bad, compound in at least 2 places. Rachel looked around the crater, spotted some straight branches that had fallen nearby. They'd have to do. She pulled out her emergency medical tape, the kind designed to hold even under pressure, and got to work. The creature's scales were hot to the touch, almost burning her fingers through her gloves. She worked quickly, aligning the wing bones as best she could and splinting them with the branches. It wasn't pretty, but it would keep the bones from moving and causing more damage. Next, she administered pain suppressants and anti-inflammatory drugs from her kit. The dosage calculations were tricky. She had to estimate based on the creature's mass and hoped the universal compounds would work on draconian biology. She injected the medication between the scales where the skin was softer, holding her breath. She was checking the scanner readings again when the creature's eyes suddenly snapped open. Rachel froze. Those eyes were golden, glowing like molten metal, and they fixed on her with an intensity that made her feel like prey. The creature's pupils contracted to thin slits. A low rumble started deep in its chest, vibrating to the ground beneath her feet. Easy, Rachel said, surprised her voice didn't shake. I'm a medic. You're badly injured. I'm trying to help you. The creature's eyes narrowed. It studied her for a long moment, and Rachel got the strange feeling it was looking into her, reading something deeper than just her words. Finally, it spoke, and its voice was like distant thunder, deep and resonant. You are small. It said in Galactic Common, the trade language most species used. Fragile. Why would you approach me? Because you're hurt, Rachel replied simply. And I'm a nurse. That's what we do. The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. I am Kale. Your assistance is appreciated. Rachel let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. I'm Rachel. Can you stand? We need to get you somewhere safer. This crater is still hot, and I need to do a full examination. Kale tried to rise and immediately collapsed, a hiss of pain escaping between his teeth. The injured wing dragged uselessly behind him. Don't, Rachel said firmly, putting a hand on his shoulder. The scales were smooth and warm beneath her palm. That wing needs time to stabilize. Can you walk on 3 legs? I can manage, Kale said, though his tone suggested he wasn't happy about it. Together, slowly, they made their way out of the crater. Rachel supported as much of his weight as she could, which wasn't much considering he probably weighed several tons. But Kale seemed to appreciate the gesture. They moved toward a cave opening Rachel had spotted earlier, about 100 yards into the tree line. The cave was shallow but dry, with enough room for Kale to settle comfortably. Rachel helped him lie down, positioning his injured wing carefully to avoid putting pressure on the fractures. What happened? She asked, unpacking her kit to check his other injuries. Ship malfunction? Kale's eyes flickered away from hers. Something like that. Rachel noticed the evasion, but didn't push. She was more concerned with the deep gash along his side that her scanner had detected. I'm going to need to clean this wound. It's going to hurt. I have survived worse, Kale said, but she saw his claws dig into the cave floor when she began working on the injury. As she cleaned and sealed the wound with medical adhesive, Rachel couldn't help but notice details about her patient. The way he held himself with a kind of unconscious authority, even lying injured in a cave. The intricate patterns on his scales that were unlike any draconian markings she'd seen in textbooks. The way his eyes tracked every movement she made with an intelligence that was both impressive and slightly unnerving. Those patterns on your scales, she said, making conversation to distract him from the pain. They're different from other draconians I've met. I am from a distant region. Kale said carefully. The patterns vary by clan. Are you military? You move like someone with combat training. A pause. I have served my people in various capacities. Rachel smiled slightly. You're not very good at answering questions, are you? For the first time, she thought she saw amusement flicker across his reptilian features. I find it wise to be cautious with information, especially in vulnerable circumstances. Fair enough, Rachel said, finishing with the wound. She sat back, wiping sweat from her forehead. Well, Kale from a distant region, here's the situation. That wing is badly fractured. It's going to take at least 2 weeks to heal enough for you to fly, maybe longer. You'll need daily treatments, physical therapy, and monitoring for infection. I cannot stay here that long, Kale said, alarm creeping into his voice. If others find me. Others? What others? Rachel asked. Are you in trouble? Kale's jaw tightened. I cannot explain, but I must remain hidden. Can you help me without alerting your authorities? Rachel should have said no, should have reported this to the Colony Medical Center, gotten proper help, done everything by the book. But something in Kale's eyes, a mixture of pride and genuine fear, made her reconsider. I can come back tomorrow, she heard herself saying. Bring more supplies. But you have to promise me you'll stay put and not try to fly. If you damage that wing further, you might never fly again. You would do this? For a stranger? I'm a nurse, Rachel said again, as if that explained everything. Maybe it did. Just try not to eat me before I get back, okay? That rumbling sound again, definitely a laugh this time. I will restrain myself. As Rachel hiked back to the colony in the fading light, her mind raced. She had no idea what she'd just gotten herself into. All she knew was that somewhere in the forest, a mysterious dragon with secrets needed her help. Rachel called in sick the next morning. It was the first time in 3 years she'd lied to her supervisor, and the guilt sat heavy in her stomach as she packed her hiking bag with medical supplies. But what was she supposed to say? Sorry, Can come in today. I'm treating a mysterious dragon in a cave who doesn't want anyone to know he's here. Yeah, that would go over well. She told him she'd twisted her ankle on her hike. Simple, believable. Dr. Bennett had sounded concerned and told her it'd take a few days if she needed. Rachel hated lying to him, but something told her Kale's secrecy was important. Life or death important. The hike to the cave took her 40 minutes. She brought protein bars, water purification tablets, a portable wound scanner, fresh bandages, and some pain medication strong enough to work on large species. Her bag weighed at least 30 pounds, and by the time she reached the cave entrance, her shoulders were burning. "Kale?" she called softly, not wanting to startle him. A massive golden eye appeared in the darkness. "You returned." "I said I would, didn't I?" Rachel stepped inside, letting her eyes adjust to the dim light. "How are you feeling?" "Like I was torn from the sky and smashed into your planet." Kale rumbled, but there was a hint of humor in his voice. Rachel smiled despite herself. "So, about the same as yesterday." "Good. That means you're not getting worse." She moved closer, pulling out her scanner. "I need to check that wing. This might be uncomfortable." Kale extended the injured wing slowly, and Rachel could see him fighting not to wince. The splint was holding, which was good, but the swelling had increased overnight. She'd expected that. Broken bones always got worse before they got better. "I'm going to give you another round of anti-inflammatories," she said, preparing an injection. "And we need to start gentle physical therapy today. Just small movements to keep the muscles from getting too stiff." "You seem very certain of yourself," Kale observed, watching her work. "For someone treating a species you have likely never encountered before." "The biology is different, but the principles are the same," Rachel explained, finding a soft spot between the scales to inject the medication. "Bones are bones. Muscles are muscles. They all heal the same way, with time, care, and movement at the right stages." Over the next hour, she guided Kale through careful exercises, extending the wings slightly, folding it back, testing the range of motion without putting pressure on the fractures. He was a terrible patient, stubborn and proud, insisting he could do more than she'd allow. "If you push too hard, you'll undo all the healing," Rachel warned. "Trust me, I've seen it 100 times. Tough guys who think they know better than their doctors, and they end up with permanent damage." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Are you calling me a tough guy?" "If the scale fits," Rachel shot back. That rumbling laugh again. It was becoming familiar, almost comforting. "You are bold for such a small creature." "I get that a lot." Rachel packed away her scanner. "So, are you to tell me what really happened? Because ship malfunctions don't usually result in someone hiding in a cave, terrified of being found." Kale was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "There are those who would prefer I not complete my journey. The malfunction was not an accident." Rachel's blood ran cold. "Someone tried to kill you?" "Tried. Past tense. As you can see, they did not succeed." He shifted his weight, looking away. "But they may try again if they learn I survived, which is why I must remain hidden until I can fly." "Who will want to kill you?" Rachel asked, then immediately raised her hand. "Wait, you're not going to answer that, are you? It is safer for you if you do not know." "That's what people always say right before things get really dangerous," Rachel muttered, but she didn't push further. Instead, she pulled out the protein bars she'd brought. "Here, you need to eat. Healing takes energy." Kale sniffed the bars suspiciously. "What is this?" "Compressed nutrition. Not exactly gourmet, but it'll keep you going." She unwrapped one and took a bite to show him it was safe. "See? Not poison." He ate slowly, carefully, and Rachel found herself relaxing into conversation. She told him about the colony, about how humans had spread across the galaxy looking for new homes, about her training as a nurse, and her dream of joining the Galactic Medical Corps someday. "You wish to heal more than just your own people?" Kale asked. "I wish to heal anyone who needs it," Rachel said simply. "That's the whole point, isn't it? We're all just trying to survive out here in the universe. Doesn't matter if you have scales or skin." Kale watched her with those intense golden eyes. "That is a rare perspective. Most species are more territorial. Yeah, well, humans learned the hard way that we're stronger together. She started repacking her bag. I'll come back tomorrow morning. Same time. Try to rest, and don't move that wing more than we practice. Rachel. His voice stopped her at the cave entrance. Why are you doing this? You gain nothing from helping me. In fact, you risk much. She turned back, considering the question. Because someone needed help, and I was there. That's enough, isn't it? The dragon regarded her silently, and Rachel got the feeling she'd just said something profound, though she wasn't sure what. The days fell into a rhythm. Rachel would hike to the cave each morning with supplies, check Kale's injuries, guide him through physical therapy, and talk. They talked about everything: culture, philosophy, the nature of honor among his people, the strange human concept of democracy. Kale was surprisingly curious about human life, asking detailed questions about everything from family structures to medical ethics. By the end of the first week, the wing was healing well. The swelling had gone down, and Kale could extend it almost fully without pain. Rachel fabricated a lightweight brace using smart materials from a medical center, borrowed, not stolen, she told herself, that would support the bone structure as it knit. This is remarkable, Kale said, testing the brace's flexibility. Your technology may be less advanced than ours in many ways, but your medical applications are impressive. We've had to get creative, Rachel said. Humans are pretty fragile compared to most species. We break easy, so we learn to fix things well. During the second week, something shifted between them. Rachel couldn't quite name it, but she found herself looking forward to their daily sessions more than anything else in her life. And she caught Kale watching her sometimes with an expression that seemed almost fond. One evening, as she adjusted his brace, his foreclaw gently caught her hand. The touch was surprisingly careful, almost delicate, despite his size. "Thank you," he said in his native language, a complex series of harmonics that resonated in her chest. "For your care, for your trust. You have given me a gift beyond mere healing." Rachel's heart did something complicated in her chest. "You're welcome," she managed. She didn't understand the significance of what he'd just done. Didn't know that in draconian culture, speaking gratitude in the mother tongue was reserved for bonds of deep trust and respect. But she felt it anyway. Something important had just happened between them. Rachel knew something was wrong the moment she reached the cave. Kale was pacing. Well, limping in tight circles. His good wing flared out in agitation. His scales seemed darker somehow, and his eyes kept darting toward the sky. "What's wrong?" she asked, dropping her bag. "Ships," Kale said tersely. "In orbit. Draconian vessels. They are searching." Rachel's stomach dropped. "Searching for you? Who else?" He turned to face her, and she saw genuine fear in his eyes for the first time. They have been sweeping this region for 2 days. It is only a matter of time before they expand their search pattern to include this area. But that's good, isn't it? Rachel said, confused. "Your people are looking for you. We can signal them, get you proper medical care." "No." The word came out sharp, almost desperate. "You do not understand. I cannot be found like this. Vulnerable. Grounded. It would be..." He stopped himself, jaw clenched tight. Rachel moved closer, keeping her voice calm. "Kale, you're not making sense. Why would your own people be a threat to you?" He was quiet for a long moment, and she could see him wrestling with something. Finally, he said, "Because not all who search for me wish me well. And in my current state, I cannot distinguish friend from foe until it's too late." "Okay," Rachel said, thinking fast. "Okay, how long until that wing is flight ready?" "At least another week. Perhaps 2. You don't have 2 weeks. She chewed her lip, running through options in her head. Then an idea struck her, reckless and probably stupid, but it might work. What if we didn't wait? What if I could get you access to regeneration equipment? Kale's eyes widened. Regeneration technology? Here, at the medical center where I work. We have tanks designed for livestock. They're meant for the colony's farm animals, but the principle is the same. It could cut your healing time down to days instead of weeks. That is impossible. How would you move me there without being seen? We'd have to do it at night. There's a cargo entrance that's usually unmanned after hours. I could forge the documentation. Say it's an emergency treatment for one of the rancher's animals. Rachel was already working through the logistics in her head. It's risky, but it's better than waiting here for whoever's looking for you to find you. Cale studied her face. You would risk your position, your reputation. For me, I'm already risking it, Rachel pointed out. Might as well go all in. 2 nights later, Rachel sat in the driver's seat of a cargo transport, her hands sweating on the controls. Cale was hidden under tarps in the back, and her forged veterinary emergency form was ready on her datapad. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure someone would hear it. The cargo entrance was, thankfully, deserted. Rachel backed the transport up to the loading dock and helped Cale move quickly through the shadows to the veterinary wing. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like a security guard. The regeneration lab was in the basement, an old section of the facility that most staff avoided because it smelled like wet animal and disinfectant. Perfect for their purposes. This is it, Rachel whispered, unsealing the largest tank. The blue gel inside glowed softly in the darkness. You'll need to submerge completely. The system will put you in a semi-conscious state while it accelerates cellular repair. Cale climbed into the tank carefully, his scales gleaming as the gel closed over them. How long? 12 hours, maybe less. Rachel programmed the settings, adjusting for his size and bone density. I'll monitor from here. Try to relax. She settled into a chair, watching the readouts as Cale's vital signs stabilized. The wing fractures were already beginning to knit. 3 hours. That's all it would take for the bones to fully heal. Modern medicine was amazing. Rachel must have dozed off around hour 5 because she woke to the sound of the lab door opening. Her blood turned to ice. Dr. Bennett stood in the doorway, his face a mixture of shock and confusion. Rachel, what are you? His eyes traveled to the regeneration tank, and his expression changed completely. Oh my God, do you have any idea what you've done? I can explain, Rachel started, but Bennett was already moving toward the tank, staring at Cale's sleeping form through the gel. This isn't just any draconian, he said quietly. His hands were shaking. Rachel, look at those scale patterns. The size, the coloring. He turned to face her, and she'd never seen him look so pale. That's Emperor Cale Dracorius, ruler of the entire Draconian Imperium. The room seemed to tilt sideways. That's impossible. He's just what? Just a random dragon who crashed on our planet and happened to have royal markings? Bennett ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Every ship in 3 sectors is searching for him. He disappeared during a diplomatic mission 3 weeks ago. The political implications alone. Someone tried to kill him, Rachel said, finding her voice. That's why he didn't want to be found. He doesn't know who he can trust. Bennett stopped pacing. If word gets out that the Emperor is here, vulnerable on a human colony. He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't have to. Rachel understood. Assassins, political enemies, rival claimants to the throne, any number of people who might want Cale dead. We have to protect him, she said firmly. We have to contact the Imperium, Bennett countered. Quietly, securely, through proper diplomatic channels. They stared at each other across the lab, and Rachel realized how much trouble she was actually in, harboring a head of state without reporting it, using medical equipment without authorization, falsifying documents. The regeneration tank beeped, signaling completion. The gel began to drain, and Cale stirred, his eyes opening slowly. Rachel moved to help him out, but Bennett beat her there, offering a surprisingly steady hand. Your Majesty, he said formally, I'm Dr. Bennett. I apologize for the informal circumstances of our meeting. Cale's eyes found Rachel's face, a question in them. She gave a small nod. The truth was out now. No more hiding. The doctor recognized you, she said simply. He knows who you are. Cale pulled himself from the tank, testing his wing. It extended fully, smoothly, with no pain. Healed completely. He folded it back and regarded Bennett with those intense golden eyes. And what do you intend to do with this knowledge, Doctor? Bennett straightened his shoulders. keep you alive, Your Majesty, and figure out how to get you home safely. He glanced at Rachel. We're going to need a plan. A good one. Because in about 3 hours, the day's shift starts, and this lab is going to be full of people. Rachel felt something loosen in her chest. They weren't alone in this anymore. It was terrifying and relieving all at once. Kale looked between them, something like respect crossing his features. Then we should begin planning. Time, I suspect, is not on our side. He was right. In the distance, Rachel heard the first sounds of facility waking up. Day's shift arriving early. Voices in hallways. And somewhere above them, ships were still searching. Rachel and Dr. Bennett were helping Kale for the maintenance corridor toward the cargo bay when the first explosion hit. The floor bucked beneath their feet, and the lights flickered and died. Emergency red lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie crimson glow. What was that? Rachel gasped, steadying herself against the wall. Kale's entire body had gone rigid, his nostrils flaring. They found me. Another explosion, closer this time. Alarms began shrieking throughout the facility. Rachel heard screaming from somewhere above them, staff members panicking, running. Her nurse instincts kicked, and immediately, people were hurt. People needed help. We need to get to the emergency shelter, Bennett said, already moving. The main staff bunker is 2 floors up. No, Kale's voice was hard. They will target areas where people gather. The bunker will be a trap. How do you know? Rachel asked. Because it is what I would do. His eyes met hers, and she saw the warrior in him for the first time. Not the injured patient she'd been caring for, but someone who understood battle and strategy. We must move. Now. They ran through the corridors as the building shook around them. Rachel grabbed an emergency medical kit from a supply closet as they passed. Old habits. Through a window, she caught a glimpse of the chaos outside. Dark figures in combat armor were advancing on the building, weapons raised. Not draconian ships overhead. These were ground forces, infiltrators. The east stairwell, Bennett panted. We can get to the ground level, and the wall beside them exploded inward. Rachel felt herself thrown backward, hitting the ground hard enough to knock the wind from her lungs. Her ears rang. Dust and debris filled the air, making it impossible to see. Strong claws grabbed her, pulled her to her feet. Kale! He'd shielded both her and Bennett with his body, his scales scorched but intact. Through the hole in the wall, Rachel could see armed figures advancing. 6 of them, maybe more, wearing armor covered in strange symbols. Behind me, Kale ordered. His voice had changed completely. This was command, pure authority. Stay close and do not stop moving. What happened next, Rachel would later struggle to fully remember. Kale moved like nothing she'd ever seen, a blur of bronze and gold, incredibly fast despite his size. He didn't kill the attackers. She noticed even through her fear. He disarmed them, threw them aside, knocked them unconscious. Precise, controlled, showing mercy even to those who come to kill him. But more kept coming. They fought their way through 2 more corridors, collecting frightened staff members along the way. A young lab technician named Maya, an orderly called Chris, an older nurse, Patricia, who twisted her ankle in the chaos. Rachel helped Patricia walk, while Kale cleared the path ahead and Bennett brought up the rear. The emergency exit. Bennett shouted over the alarms. If we can reach it. Another group of attackers rounded the corner ahead. This time they had bigger weapons. Things that hummed with dangerous energy. Rachel saw Kale hesitate for the first time. He was strong, but even he had limits. They were trapped. Attackers ahead, attackers behind, and 7 terrified humans counting on her and Bennett to save them. Rachel's mind raced. There had to be something, some way to even the odds. She thought about the facility layout, about what was stored on this level. Medical supplies, pharmaceuticals, cleaning chemicals. And then it hit her. They're suits, she said suddenly. Kale, they're environmental suits. They're sealed systems, right? He glanced back at her, understanding flickering in his eyes. Yes, designed to protect them from various atmospheres, which means they're breathing filtered air. Rachel was already digging through the emergency kit. Bennett, the supply room 20 feet behind us. Does it still have industrial cleaning compounds? Should, but why? Then his eyes went wide. Oh, that's brilliant. Or insane, Rachel muttered. Probably insane. She found what she was looking for. Medical aerosol capsules. The kind used to deliver respiratory medication. Cover me. I need 60 seconds. While Kale held off the advancing attackers, Rachel sprinted to the supply room. Her hands shook as she grabbed the containers she needed. Compounds that were perfectly safe in small doses but cause intense respiratory irritation when concentrated. She mixed them with the aerosol capsules, working faster than she'd ever worked in her life. Rachel, Bennett's warning cry. She ran back to find the situation deteriorating. More attackers had arrived. Kale had taken up a defensive position protecting the group of humans, but he couldn't hold out much longer. Blood, purple, she noticed distantly, was running from a cut on his shoulder. Everyone, cover your faces, Rachel ordered, pulling her shirt up over her nose and mouth. Kale, when I throw these, you need to create air movement with your wings. Push it toward them. She didn't wait for confirmation. She threw the capsules at the attacker's feet and dove behind Kale's bulk. The capsules shattered, releasing thick clouds of the aerosol mixture. Kale's wings beat once, twice, directing the cloud forward. The effect was immediate. The attackers stumbled, clawing at their helmet seals, coughing and gasping. It wouldn't hurt them permanently. Rachel had made sure of that, but it would incapacitate them long enough. Go, she shouted. Everyone move. They ran for the emergency exit, half dragging Patricia between them. Behind them, Rachel heard more explosions, more shouting. But they were through the door and into the night air, and ships, massive draconian warships hanging in the sky like silver moons, their running lights turning the darkness into day. Smaller craft were descending, and Rachel's heart sank. More attackers. They'd never make it. But then she saw the armor on the descending soldiers, different from the attackers. Gleaming, crystal-like plates that caught the light. And they weren't advancing on the medical center. They were surrounding it, cutting off the escape routes of the infiltrators. Imperial Guard, Kale breathed. They found me. The soldiers moved with military precision, neutralizing the remaining attackers within minutes. One of them approached Kale and immediately dropped to one knee, fist over heart. The others followed. Your Majesty, the lead guard said, his voice thick with emotion. We feared the worst. Rachel watched as more guards appeared, creating a protective perimeter. Medical personnel in draconian uniforms rushed forward to examine Kale. Officers were shouting orders, coordinating sweeps of the building to secure any remaining threats. And just like that, it was over. Kale was swept up into security briefings, medical examinations, urgent communications appearing on holographic displays around him. Rachel saw him glance back at her once, twice, but the gulf between them had never felt wider. He was an emperor again, surrounded by his people, his responsibilities. She was just a human nurse who'd been in the wrong place at the right time. Come on, Bennett said gently, touching her shoulder. Let's get everyone checked out. We've got work to do. Rachel nodded numbly and turned to help Patricia, pushing down the strange ache in her chest. This was always how it was going to end. She'd known that, had told herself not to get attached. But somewhere between setting a broken wing and late-night conversations about honor and healing, she'd forgotten her own advice. 3 weeks passed like a strange dream. The colony was flooded with imperial representatives, diplomats in flowing robes, officials with stern faces and endless questions, guards who stood like statues at every corner. They offered Rachel everything. Money enough to never work again. A estate on one of the core worlds. Titles that meant nothing to her, but apparently impressed everyone else. She turned them all down. You don't understand, Dr. Bennett said one evening, sitting across from her in the hospital cafeteria. They're offering you generational wealth. Your children's children would be set for life. Rachel stirred her coffee, watching the liquid swirl. I didn't help him for a reward, Tom. I helped him because he was hurt and needed someone. That's all. That's all. Bennett shook his head in amazement. You saved the life of the most powerful being in known space, and you're acting like you just bandaged a scraped knee. Isn't that what I did, though? Just bigger? Bennett laughed, but it was a fond sound. You're something else, Rachel Hayes. You know that. The days fell back into routine. Morning shifts, patient rounds, paperwork. But everything felt muted somehow, like she was watching her life through fog glass. She told herself it was exhaustion, the stress of everything that had happened, not the fact that she hadn't heard from Cale since that night, which was fine, expected even. He was an emperor. She was a nurse on a backwater colony. Their worlds had intersected briefly, and now they'd separated again. That was how these things worked. She almost believed it. Then, on a Tuesday morning during her shift, a guard in crystal armor appeared in the doorway of the emergency room. The entire staff went silent. Rachel Hayes. The guard said formally, "You are requested aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Storm. Transportation has been arranged." Rachel's heart did something complicated. Requested by who? The guard's expression didn't change. By His Imperial Majesty. The shuttle ride to the flagship felt surreal. Rachel had changed into her cleanest casual clothes, jeans and a simple blue shirt, and felt desperately underdressed as she was escorted through corridors that gleamed like polished mirrors. Everyone they passed bowed to her. Actually bowed. "Why are they doing that?" she whispered to her escort. "You saved the Emperor's life," the guard replied, as if that explained everything. She was brought to a set of massive doors that opened silently at their approach. The chamber beyond was surprisingly simple. Not the throne room she'd expected. More like a private study, with large windows showing the planet below and shelves lined with what looked like books. Cale stood by the window, not in armor or ceremonial robes, but in simple dark clothing that somehow made him look more regal, not less. He turned as she entered, and the guard quietly retreated, leaving them alone. "You came," he said. "You summoned me," Rachel replied, trying to keep her voice light. "I figured refusing an emperor was probably bad manners. I requested. I did not summon friends." He moved closer, and Rachel saw the faint scar on his wing where she'd first splinted it. The sight made her chest ache. "How have you been?" "Good. Busy. The usual." She was babbling and knew it. "The colony's been interesting with all the Imperial visitors. Mrs. Chun down at the market is charging triple for her dumplings." "Rachel," his voice was gentle, "I did not bring you here to discuss market prices." She stopped, took a breath. "Why did you bring me here, Cale?" "To thank you. Properly." He gestured to a table where a holographic display hovered. "I wish to offer you the position of Imperial Physician, the highest medical authority in the Imperium. You have unlimited resources, access to technology beyond anything your colony possesses, and the ability to implement healthcare reforms across hundreds of worlds." Rachel stared at the display, showing research facilities, medical centers, fleets of hospital ships. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of, more than she'd ever dreamed of. That's an incredible offer. But, Cale prompted, reading her hesitation. "But I'd be a human in a draconian government. That would cause problems, wouldn't it? Resentment among your nobles." "Undoubtedly." Cale didn't even try to deny it. "There will be resistance, political maneuvering. Some will question your qualifications based solely on your species. Then why offer?" "Because you are exactly what the position needs." He moved to stand beside her, looking down at the planet. "My people have grown complacent. We have advanced medicine. Yes, but we have forgotten the core principle of healing. You reminded me of that. You treated me with compassion when you had no reason to trust me, no promise of reward, no guarantee of safety. You saw someone in pain and helped, because that is what healers do." Rachel felt her throat tighten. "Cale, but I must be honest with you." He turned to face her fully. "This offer is not purely professional. In my culture, we form bonds through trust shown in vulnerability. You saw me at my weakest and helped me without agenda. That creates a connection we consider sacred." He paused, something uncertain crossing his features. "I find myself drawn to you in ways that surprised me. And I wanted you to know that before you made your decision. The air felt thick suddenly. Rachel's mind raced. You're saying... I am saying that if you accept this position, it will be complicated, both professionally and personally. You will face challenges from those who resent a human in such a role. You will navigate politics that can be brutal, and you'll be working closely with someone who holds you in high regard. His golden eyes met hers. I will not lie to you or mislead you. I am asking much, perhaps too much. Rachel looked at the holographic display again, saw the hospital ships, the research facilities, the millions of beings who could benefit from better health care. She thought about her small clinic on Verdania, the limited supplies, the patients she couldn't save because the technology simply wasn't available. But she also thought about the cost, the politics, the pressure, the complexity of being close to someone like Cale when her heart already felt tangled around him. I need to know something first, she said quietly. If I accept, I need to maintain my principles. I won't compromise patient care for politics. I won't let status determine who gets treatment. And I won't let our personal connection interfere with my medical judgment, even if my patient is the Emperor himself. Can you accept that? Cale's expression softened into something that might have been a smile. I would accept nothing less. In fact, I am counting on your stubborn insistence on doing what is right, even when it is inconvenient for me. Then I have one more condition. Rachel squared her shoulders. I want to establish a training program, not just for draconians, but for medical professionals from all species. Share the technology, share the knowledge, make it available to everyone, not just those who can afford imperial facilities. That will be expensive, difficult to implement. Many will oppose it. I know. Rachel met his eyes. But if you want me to do this, that's the price. Healthcare shouldn't be a privilege. It should be a right. For a long moment, Cale just looked at her. Then that rumbling laugh she'd come to know so well echoed through the chamber. You negotiate with an emperor as if he were a merchant in your market. It is both infuriating and refreshing. He inclined his head. Very well. Your conditions are accepted. Rachel felt something unlock in her chest. Fear and excitement mixed together. Then I guess I'm your new imperial physician. I guess you are. Cale extended his foreclaw, and she clasped it carefully. Welcome to the beginning of either a great success or a spectacular disaster. Why not both? Rachel said, and surprised herself by laughing. 6 months later, Rachel stood in the medical bay she designed, a space that blended human practicality with draconian aesthetics. Through the windows, she could see patients arriving. A draconian noble with a genetic condition, a refugee family from the outer colonies, a human merchant who'd been injured in an accident, all waiting for treatment. All equals here. Cale appeared beside her, his wing, forever bearing that thin scar, brushing her shoulder lightly. Nervous? Terrified, Rachel admitted. What if I can't do this? What if? Then you will figure it out, as you always do. He glanced at her, and there was warmth in those golden eyes. You healed a broken wing with branches and medical tape. I suspect you can handle this. Rachel smiled despite her nerves. Below them, her new staff was greeting the first patients, representatives from a dozen species, all trained in the principles she'd insisted on. Compassionate care for everyone, regardless of status or ability to pay. It wouldn't be easy. There were already 3 nobles making formal complaints about her policies. 2 attempted sabotages by officials who resented her reforms. And just last week, she'd had to ban Cale himself from the medical bay for trying to intimidate a doctor who'd put him on restricted flight status after a minor injury. But looking out at the medical center she'd built, at the lives that would be saved and improved here, Rachel felt something settle in her chest. Purpose. Belonging. Thank you, she said quietly, for seeing something in me I didn't know was there. Cale's tail curled slightly, a draconian gesture of affection she'd learned to recognize. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the most powerful thing a leader can do is admit they need help, and accept it from the most unexpected places. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their shared dream become reality. a human nurse and a dragon emperor, changing the galaxy one healed wing at a time. And in the quiet moments between the chaos, discovering that sometimes home isn't a place. It's standing beside someone who sees you, truly sees you, and chooses to stay anyway.